Hey everyone, welcome back to Trek for Wealth, the podcast where we talk about money the way real people actually talk about money. I'm Avery.
And I'm Grant. And Avery, I want to start today with a number. $1.28 trillion.
That's a lot of zeros. What is that?
That is the total amount Americans currently owe on their credit cards as of early 2026. $1,280 billion. In the last 3 months of 2025 alone, that number grew by $44 billion in one quarter.
$44 billion of new credit card debt in 90 days.
And here's a number that hits even harder. Since 2010, Americans have paid a cumulative total of $2.1 trillion in credit card interest alone. Not principal, interest. That is more than the entire outstanding student loan debt in America. More than all auto loan debt combined. $2.1 trillion transferred quietly from household budgets to bank profits.
That is a staggering transfer of wealth.
And most people have no idea it's happening because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens $20 at a time on a Tuesday when you're buying groceries and you're a little short.
Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the credit card industry, where it came from, how it was designed, who is getting rich, and what you can actually do to make sure you're not the one funding someone else's yacht.
Let's get into it.
Okay, Grant, I want to start with the origin story because credit cards feel like they've always existed, but they really haven't, have they?
Not even close. And the story starts with a forgotten wallet at a fancy New York restaurant. It's 1949. A businessman named Frank McNamara is having dinner at Major's Cabin Grill in Manhattan. The bill comes. He reaches for his wallet, and it's not there. He left it at home.
One of those moments.
His wife had to come rescue him. And McNamara was so humiliated that he spent the next year working on a solution. In February 1950, he returned to that same restaurant, and this time he paid with a small cardboard card, the Diners Club card, the first modern credit card.
Made of cardboard.
Made of cardboard. And here's what's interesting. The original Diners Club card was not what we think of as a credit card today. You had to pay the full balance at the end of every month. No carrying a balance, no revolving debt. McNamara charged customers $3 a year and restaurants a 7% fee. He made money from the service, not from the interest.
So the original vision was actually responsible.
The original vision was a convenience tool. Pay later, but pay in full. By 1951, Diners Club had 42,000 members. By 1953, it was accepted in the UK, Canada, Cuba, and Mexico. The concept was a genuine revolution.
So what changed?
1958. Bank of America launched the BankAmericard, the card that would eventually become Visa. And BankAmericard introduced something Diners Club deliberately avoided, revolving credit. You didn't have to pay the full balance. You could pay a minimum, carry the rest forward, and be charged interest on what you owed.
And that's when it changed from a convenience tool to a debt machine.
That is precisely the moment. And Bank of America's launch strategy was aggressive. They mailed 60,000 unsolicited BankAmericards to customers in Fresno, California. Pre-approved. No application. Just, here's a card with a $300 limit. Use it.
Unsolicited credit cards mailed directly to people who never asked for them.
People who had no idea what revolving interest meant, who didn't understand that paying the minimum wasn't the same as paying the bill. Bank of America initially suffered enormous losses as cardholders defaulted, but they didn't stop because they had figured something out. The customers who didn't default and who carried a revolving balance month after month were extraordinarily profitable, far more profitable than any other banking product.
Because the interest just keeps compounding.
Keeps compounding. By 1966, BankAmericard went national. Other banks rushed to join. The Interbank Card Association formed in 1966. It eventually became MasterCard. BankAmericard became Visa in 1976. Discover launched in 1986. And what started as a cardboard convenience tool for embarrassed businessmen had become the most profitable financial product ever invented.
And the banks figured out in the 1980s, as one historian put it, that they didn't want customers who paid their bills in full every month.
Exactly. Those customers cost them money to serve. The ideal credit card customer, from a bank's perspective, is someone who carries a balance forever, pays the minimum, never quite pays it off. Just a steady stream of interest payments, month after month, year after year.
Which is exactly the situation tens of millions of Americans are in right now. Let's talk about where we are today, because the numbers are genuinely alarming.
So, right now in 2026, roughly half of all active credit card holders are carrying a balance month to month. That translates to about 111 million people trapped in what researchers call revolving debt cycles. Of those, more than 27 million Americans can only afford the minimum payment each month. They are mathematically unable to make progress on their debt.
What does minimum payment math actually look like?
Let's say you have $5,000 on a card at 20% interest. If you pay only the minimum, it takes you over 17 years to pay it off, and you end up paying more than $5,000 in interest alone. On a $5,000 purchase, you pay twice.
You pay for the thing twice.
Twice. And the average American credit card interest rate right now is around 20%. Some cards charge 27, 28, even 30%. Meanwhile, the banks borrow money from the Federal Reserve at rates between 3.5% and 4%. The spread between what they pay to borrow and what they charge you is the profit margin. And since the 2008 financial crisis, banks have more than doubled that profit margin. A 109% increase in their take.
So the banks got bailed out in 2008 and then used the decade that followed to quietly double their margins on the people who bailed them out?
That is a very accurate summary. And here's what's fueling the crisis right now in 2026. The combination of inflation, oil prices, and tariff costs has pushed the average household's cost of living higher than wages have kept pace with. The average American family has already paid more than $1,700 in extra costs from tariffs alone since the current administration took office. People are using credit cards not for luxuries, but for necessity.
A new survey found that 55% of people with credit card balances are using their cards to cover groceries, utilities, rent gaps.
Necessities, not vacations, not electronics. The last line of defense between a household and a real crisis. And at 20% interest, every month that groceries go on the card and don't get paid off, the problem gets quietly, invisibly worse.
And some people's credit utilization is essentially maxed out.
The median utilization rate for borrowers with the lowest credit scores is 99.2%. They have almost no runway left. And credit card delinquencies, accounts 90 or more days past due, have climbed above pre-pandemic levels. More than 7% of balances are now seriously delinquent. JP Chase has said unrecoverable credit card loans hit their highest level since 2011.
So we have 111 million people in revolving debt at 20% interest, using cards to pay for groceries with almost no room left and rising delinquencies, all on top of oil shock and potential stagflation.
All converging at the same time, which is why EY just put recession odds at 40% and JP Morgan has gone as high as 60. Consumer spending is 69% of US GDP. If the consumer breaks, the economy breaks.
And the consumer is looking very strange right now. Okay, I have to ask about the political piece because Trump promised a 10% credit card rate cap during the campaign. What happened to that?
So this is a genuinely frustrating story. During the campaign, Trump promised to cap credit card interest rates at 10% for 1 year. It was a popular proposal. It would have provided real relief to the 27 million Americans who can only make minimum payments. He set a self-imposed deadline of January 20 of 2026. That deadline has passed. Then he posted on Truth Social renewing the pledge. That deadline has now also passed.
And every day it doesn't happen,
Every single day that no cap is implemented, Americans collectively accrue $368 million in new credit card interest per day. That number comes from researchers at the Century Foundation who ran the calculation.
$168 million a day?
$368 million every day.
Is a recap actually feasible? What do economists think?
It's genuinely contested. Supporters say it would provide immediate relief to the most financially stressed Americans and that bank profit margins are obscenely wide. Critics and many economists argue that if you cap rates at 10%, banks simply stop issuing cards to anyone who isn't a perfect credit risk. The people who need credit most lose access to it entirely. What's meant to help the bottom half could end up cutting them off completely. The honest answer is it's complicated. And it's complicated as cold comfort when you're paying 27% on a balance you can't pay off.
Okay, this is the part our listeners actually came for. What do you do?
So there are 5 moves that actually work, and they range from immediate to longer term.
Walk us through them.
Move 1. Know your rate. This sounds obvious, but most people genuinely don't know what interest rate they're paying on each card. Go look right now. If you're paying above 20% on a balance you're carrying, that is your highest priority financial problem. Not your investments, not your 401k. That 20% guaranteed return from eliminating that debt beats almost any investment you can make.
Move 2.
Attack high-rate debt with the avalanche method. List every card by interest rate, highest to lowest. Make minimum payments on everything. Then throw every extra dollar you have at the highest rate card first. Once it's gone, roll that payment to the next card. The avalanche saves you the most money and interest over time. The snowball, smallest balance first, works better if you need psychological wins to stay motivated. Both be only paying minimums by an enormous margin.
Move 3.
The balance transfer. If you have good credit, above 670, there are cards right now offering 0% interest for 12 to 21 months on balance transfers. You pay a transfer fee of usually 3 to 5%, but 0% for 18 months versus 20%? The math is not close. You could save hundreds or thousands of dollars and actually make progress on the principal for the first time.
Move 4.
Call your card issuer and ask for a rate reduction. This is underused and surprisingly effective. If you've been a customer for more than a year and you have a history of on-time payments, call the number on the back of your card. Ask to speak to retention. Tell them you're considering a balance transfer elsewhere and you'd like them to reduce your rate. Studies show this works for about 60% of people who ask. Banks would rather keep you at a slightly lower margin than lose you entirely.
And move 5.
Change the relationship with the card entirely. The credit card industry is designed to profit from your balance. But here's the thing. If you pay your balance in full every single month, the entire equation flips. You get the rewards, you get the consumer protections, you get the float, and they get nothing. The credit card companies actually call customers who pay in full every single month deadbeats internally because those customers cost them money.
The goal is to be a deadbeat.
The goal is to be a deadbeat. Use the card, collect the rewards, pay it in full. Be their worst nightmare.
I love that framing. Be their worst nightmare. Grant, close this out.
Frank McNamara forgot his wallet at dinner in 1949 and accidentally started an industry that now moves more than $1 trillion of American household wealth to bank profits every decade. He never intended revolving debt. He never intended 20% interest rates. He never intended 111 million people trapped in a cycle they can't easily escape. The credit card is one of the most powerful financial tools ever created. Like any tool, it depends entirely on who's holding it and how. In the hands of a bank, it extracts wealth slowly and invisibly from households that are already stretched. In your hands, used correctly, it's free rewards, purchase protection, credit building, and zero cost. The industry is counting on you not knowing the difference. Now you do.
$1.28 trillion. $2.1 trillion in interest since 2010. $368 million a day. Those are the numbers that fund bank profits. Trek for Wealth exists so that your money stays in your pocket, not theirs.
All the sources are in the show notes. Share this one, especially with anyone you know who's making minimum payments and doesn't understand why the balance never seems to go down.
We'll see you next week. Keep trekking.
Take care, everyone.